Captain Thessa stood on the bridge of her merchant ship, watching the warning lights flash red across every screen. Her ship was not alone out here. 3 massive vessels had appeared from behind the asteroid field, and she knew exactly what they were. Krell hunters. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Krell. They were predators who roamed the empty spaces between worlds, looking for easy targets. They did not trade. They did not negotiate. They simply took what they wanted and destroyed what remained. Their ships were built like weapons, all sharp edges and dark metal, painted in deep red that looked like dried blood. Thessa's people, the Valkyrie, were nothing like the Krell. They were traders and merchants. Their ships carried food, supplies, and goods from one world to another. They had no weapons worth mentioning. Their shields could barely stop a small meteor, let alone military-grade weapons. "Try to contact them," Thessa said to her communications officer. Her voice was calm, but her 4 hearts were beating fast with fear. "Offer them our cargo. Tell them they can have everything. Just let us go." The young officer worked frantically at his console, sending messages on every frequency he could find. But there was no response. Only static filled the speakers. The Krell had jammed all communications. No one could hear the Valkyrie's distress calls. No one could come to help. Thessa watched the tactical display with growing dread. The 3 Krell ships were moving in a pattern she recognized from stories told in every spaceport. They formed a wide circle around her small fleet, then began to spiral inward, slowly and deliberately. It was their signature hunting technique. They did this to create fear, to watch their prey panic before they struck. One by one, every escape route disappeared. The Krell positioned themselves perfectly, blocking any path to open space. Even a desperate jump to faster-than-light speed would be impossible now. They would need at least 30 seconds to charge their engines, and the Krell would destroy them in 10. Thessa's second-in-command moved closer to her, keeping his voice low so the rest of the bridge crew would not hear. "Captain, should we prepare the escape pods?" Thessa looked at the screens showing her fleet. 5 merchant ships, carrying hundreds of Valkyrie. Families, children, workers heading home after months of trading in distant systems. The escape pods could maybe save 50 people. Perhaps fewer. "Not yet," she whispered back. "Maybe they will show mercy." But even as she said the words, she knew they were lies she told herself for comfort. The Krell showed no mercy. That was why prey species feared them so much. That was why trade ships traveled in convoys and avoided certain sectors of space entirely. The Krell ships continued their slow spiral, moving closer with each rotation. Thessa could see them clearly now on the visual displays. Each hunter ship was 3 times the size of her largest vessel. Weapon ports lined their hulls like teeth in a predator's mouth. "Captain, they are powering weapons," the tactical officer reported. His voice shook slightly. Thessa closed her eyes for a moment. Her people had evolved on a peaceful world with no large predators. They had built their civilization on cooperation and trade. Violence was something they read about in history files, something ancient and barbaric that civilized species had moved beyond. But the universe was not civilized. And out here in the dark spaces between the stars, the old rules still applied. The strong survived. The weak died. "All ships, maximum power to shields," Thessa ordered. "It will not save us, but it might buy us a few more seconds." The bridge crew worked in silence. There was nothing else to say. No clever plan could save them. No brilliant tactic would help. They were merchants facing warships, civilians facing trained killers. The lead Krell vessel moved closer. Thessa could see targeting beams lock onto her ship. This was the end. She thought about her family back on the Valkyrie homeworld. She thought about the children in the lower decks who would never grow up. She thought about all the trade routes that would go silent, all the deliveries that would never arrive. The Krell weapons began to charge. Light gathered at the tips of their massive cannons. In seconds they would fire. In minutes, the Valkyrie fleet would be nothing but debris floating in the void. Thessa gripped the arms of her captain's chair and waited for death to arrive. At the very edge of the star system, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. A single ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its engines glowing hot from the journey. The vessel was nothing special to look at. It was a cargo freighter, boxy and practical, with a hull covered in scratches and dents from years of hard work. The name painted on its side read Morning Star, in faded letters. On the bridge, Captain James Blake sat in his worn command chair, reviewing their cargo manifest. Medical supplies bound for a colony world called New Cardiff. 2,000 people were waiting for antibiotics and surgical equipment. The delivery was already 3 days late because of engine trouble. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," said Emma Harris from the communication station. She was young, only 26, with sharp eyes and quick fingers. It is an old distress signal. Really old frequency. Nobody uses these channels anymore. Blake looked up from his data pad. He was 43 years old with gray starting to show in his dark hair. 20 years in the Earth Defense Force had taught him to recognize trouble when he heard it. Let me listen. Emma played the recording. The voice was alien, speaking in a language the ship's computer had to translate. But the fear needed no translation. Warning alarms blared in the background. Weapons lock indicators screeched. Someone was dying out there. Marcus, what do you see on sensors? Blake called to his tactical officer. Marcus Cole studied his screens carefully. He was a big man, former military like Blake, with steady hands and a calm voice even in crisis. 3 contacts. Krell Hunter-class vessels. They have a small fleet boxed in. Looks like civilian traders. No weapons signatures on the victims. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. 8 people crewed the Morning Star. Just 8. They had 1 aging freighter with basic defensive systems. Against 3 Krell warships they would last maybe 2 minutes in a fight. Captain, Emma said carefully, we are carrying medicine for New Cardiff. Those colonists are depending on us. Blake stared at the tactical display. The Krell ships were circling their prey like sharks around wounded fish. He could see it all playing out. In a few minutes those civilian ships would be debris. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people would die. And the Morning Star would continue on its way, delivering medicine to people who were sick but still alive. His first officer, Thomas Grant, moved to stand beside the captain's chair. Tom was older than Blake, 52, with a weathered face and patient eyes. He did not say anything. He just waited for the decision he knew was coming. James Blake had grown up on Earth, in the mountains of North America. His grandfather had told him stories about the old days, when humans were not the top predators on their own world. When bears and wolves and mountain lions could kill a person easily. Humans survived by being smarter, tougher, and by working together. By protecting each other. His hand moved to the helm controls without conscious thought. Tom, plot an intercept course. Emma, charge our EMP generators. Marcus, I need you to analyze those Krell ships. Find me their weak points. Sir, Marcus started to protest. We are a cargo freighter. We are not equipped for combat. We are humans, Blake said quietly. And humans do not leave people to die when we can help. Not ever. Emma's fingers flew across her console. EMP suite charging. It will take 3 minutes to reach full power. Tom plotted the course in silence, then looked at his captain. Ready when you are, sir. Blake studied the tactical display one more time. 3 warships against 1 freighter. No reinforcements. No backup. Just 8 people who had a choice to make. They could be smart and safe or they could be human. Engage, Blake ordered. The Morning Star turned away from its planned route and accelerated toward the Krell formation. The freighter's engines burned bright as it picked up speed, heading straight for the battle. On the Valkyrie flagship, a sensor technician noticed the new contact approaching. Captain Thessa, another ship is entering the system. Thessa felt a brief flash of hope. Reinforcements? No, Captain. It is small. A cargo vessel, I think. Single ship. The database says it is human-made. Human. Thessa had heard of them. A new species that appeared in the galaxy about 200 years ago. They came from some dangerous world and kept mostly to themselves. She did not know much else. The lead Krell hunter detected the human ship too. Commander Vex studied it on his screens and laughed. A freighter? Coming to challenge him? How amusing. Perhaps the humans wanted to negotiate for the Valkyrie lives. Perhaps they were simply stupid. Target the human ship, Vex ordered his weapons officer. Let us teach these newcomers to mind their own business. The Morning Star continued its steady approach, accelerating directly toward 3 ships that could destroy it with a single volley. On the bridge, Blake watched the distance close. His crew worked at their stations without complaint, without question. They trusted him. He hoped that trust was not misplaced. Blake leaned forward in his command chair and nodded to Emma. Open a channel to the Krell ships. All frequencies. Emma worked her console for a moment, then looked up. Channel open, Captain. Blake's voice was calm and professional, like he was discussing a shipping schedule instead of facing 3 warships. Krell vessels, this is Captain James Blake of the human freighter Morning Star. You are attacking civilian traders who have done nothing wrong. Power down your weapons and leave this area. This is your only warning. For a moment there was silence. Then laughter filled the bridge speakers. Deep, harsh laughter that sounded like grinding metal. Human. Commander Vec's voice dripped with amusement. I have heard stories about your kind. You come from some primitive world and think you matter in this galaxy. You're nothing. Leave now or become dust with these Valkyrie cowards. Blake kept his voice steady. Is that your final answer? That is your death sentence, human. My weapons are locked on your ship. You have 10 seconds to run. Blake closed the channel and looked at his crew. Tom, execute pattern Delta 7. Emma, EMP on my mark. Marcus, give me firing solutions for their sensor arrays. The Morning Star did not turn away. Instead, it accelerated straight toward the Krell formation at maximum speed. On his bridge, Vec watched in disbelief. The fool is charging us? Target their engines. End this quickly. But as the human ship entered weapon range, everything changed. The Morning Star seemed to explode outward. Thousands of small metallic fragments shot out in all directions, filling the space around it like a cloud of glittering dust. The fragments were simple chaff, pieces of metal and foil that cost almost nothing to make. But they turned the Krell targeting computers into useless junk. Every sensor screen showed nothing but static and false readings. What is happening? Vec shouted. I cannot get a lock. Now, Blake ordered. Emma slammed her hand down on the firing control. The electromagnetic pulse erupted from the Morning Star's cargo bay, invisible but devastating. It washed over the nearest Krell hunter like a wave. Every electronic system on the warship flickered and died. Shields vanished. Weapons went offline. Navigation computers rebooted. For 30 precious seconds, the Krell ship was blind and helpless. The Morning Star did not slow down. It dove under the disabled Krell vessel, so close that the two ships almost touched. As it passed, the freighter released a string of simple kinetic mines. They were not sophisticated weapons. Just explosive charges with basic timers. But they drifted perfectly into the Krell ship's engine wake. The explosions were small and precise. They did not destroy the warship, but they crippled its thrusters and maneuvering jets. The Krell hunter began to spin slowly, unable to control its movement. Impossible. Vec screamed at his crew. All ships attack. Destroy that freighter. The second Krell warship moved to intercept, but it had to pass through the cloud of chaff the Morning Star had released. Thousands of metal fragments hammered against its shields, degrading them with each impact. The ship's sensors could not see clearly through the debris field. Marcus launched their next surprise. Magnetic grapples shot from the Morning Star's cargo bay, trailing strong cables behind them. The grapples were designed for towing damaged ships, but today they had a different purpose. They clamped onto the second Krell hunter's communication array. Small cutting lasers activated on the grapples, precise and focused. They sliced through the Krell ship's external antennas in seconds. The warship could still function, but it could no longer coordinate with the other hunters. It was alone and confused. They fight like animals. Vec's weapons officer hissed. No honor, no formations, just tricks and traps. They fight to win, Vec said quietly, his anger turning to grudging respect. Third ship, break formation. Get clear of the debris and establish clean targeting. The third Krell hunter pulled back, trying to get a clear shot at the human freighter. But the Morning Star stayed close to the two disabled vessels, using them as shields. The human pilot moved with impossible precision, always keeping damaged Krell ships between himself and the third hunter. On the Valkyrie flagship, Captain Thessa watched her tactical display in complete shock. The three circling predators were now scattered and confused. One was spinning helplessly. Another could not communicate. The third was trying desperately to get a clear shot but could not risk hitting its own ships. Captain, her tactical officer whispered, the humans are using pack hunting tactics. They are using our tactics. The way small predators hunt larger ones on their homeworld. Thessa understood then. Humans came from a death world. A planet where everything tried to kill everything else. They had learned to survive by being clever, by using the environment as a weapon, by exploiting every weakness. The Krell were stronger. They had better ships and bigger weapons. But the humans were smarter. And in a fight, smart beats strong. The two remaining functional Krell hunters tried to regroup, circling wide to avoid the debris field. Commander Vec gripped his command throne with both claws, fury and confusion warring inside him. In 300 battles he had never been outmaneuvered like this. Never by a single cargo ship. Send a distress call to the nearest Krell outpost, Vec ordered. We need reinforcements. His communications officer worked the controls, sending out the emergency signal on encrypted military channels. The message went out into space, calling for help that would arrive in perhaps 40 minutes. On the Morning Star's bridge, Emma looked up from her station with a smile that was almost predatory. "Captain, I intercepted their distress call. Can you block it?" Blake asked. "Better than that, sir. I cracked their encryption 3 minutes ago. I have access to their entire communications network." Blake understood immediately what she was offering. Show them what happened here. Broadcast everything. Emma's fingers danced across her console with practiced speed. Within seconds, the entire battle was streaming across Krell military channels. Every warship within 50 light-years could now watch the engagement. They saw the chaff deployment that blinded their sensors. They saw the EMP strike that disabled a Hunter-class vessel. They saw the kinetic mines placed with surgical precision. They saw the communication array cut away like it was made of paper. Most importantly, they saw a single human freighter making 3 Krell hunters look like untrained rookies. Marcus added tactical analysis to the broadcast, highlighting every decision the Morning Star made, every weakness it exploited, every assumption the Krell had made that proved wrong. It was not just a defeat. It was a lesson being taught to the entire Krell military. On Vex Bridge, a junior officer spoke hesitantly. "Commander, the humans are broadcasting our failure across all military channels. Every ship in the sector is watching." Vec felt something cold settle in his chest. In Krell culture, strength was everything. Honor came from victory. This broadcast would destroy his reputation. Other commanders would see him as weak. Prey species would lose their fear of the Krell name. "Commander," his weapons officer reported quietly, "the human ship has achieved target lock on our remaining propulsion systems. They can cripple us whenever they choose." Vex stared at the tactical display. He had 2 choices. Fight until his ships were disabled or destroyed, dying with honor but accomplishing nothing. Or retreat in shame, but survive to learn from this encounter and perhaps fight again another day. The human communication channel opened again. Blake's voice filled Vec's bridge, calm and certain. "Commander Vec, you have a decision to make. Your reinforcements are 40 minutes away. My crew can disable both your ships in the next 5 minutes. You will be floating debris before help arrives. Or you can leave now, take your damaged vessels home, and deliver a message to your people." "What message?" Vec asked, his voice tight with controlled rage. "That the galaxy has changed. You are not the only predators anymore. From this day forward, humanity stands between hunters and those who cannot protect themselves. Attack the weak and you will find us waiting." Vec's claws dug into his throne. Everything in his culture screamed at him to fight, to die rather than retreat. But he was also a practical warrior. The humans had beaten him with inferior technology and superior tactics. That meant they could be studied, analyzed, and eventually defeated. But only if he survived to share what he learned. "Why do you risk everything for strangers?" Vec demanded. "The Valkyrie mean nothing to you. You could have passed by safely." Blake's answer came without hesitation. "Because where we come from, the strong protect the weak. That is what separates people from animals. That is what makes us human." Long seconds passed in silence. Finally Vec spoke to his crew, his voice heavy with defeat. "Disengage weapons. Plot a course home." "Commander, our honor?" his second officer began. Vec cut him off sharply. "Our honor lies in learning from worthy opponents. These humans fight unlike anything in our database. We retreat now to study them, to understand them, and to return stronger. That is not cowardice. That is wisdom." The 2 Krell hunters slowly turned away from the battlefield, their damaged systems trailing vapor and sparks. They accelerated toward the edge of the system, limping away from the fight they could not win. The Valkyrie fleet erupted with transmissions. Voices overlapped in excitement and relief and gratitude. "Human vessel Morning Star, this is Captain Thessa. You saved our lives. Our families. Our entire fleet. How can we ever repay such a debt?" Blake smiled, tired but satisfied. "No debt, Captain. Just remember this when someone else needs help. And maybe you could help us deliver medical supplies to New Cardiff? We are running a bit late." Thessa's laughter came through the speakers, full of joy and relief. "It would be our greatest honor, Captain Blake." As both fleets prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Emma turned to Blake. "Sir, we just made powerful enemies today." Blake nodded slowly. "Maybe. But we made more friends. And we showed the galaxy something they needed to see." "What is that?" "That humans keep their word. We said we would protect the defenseless. And we will." Within 12 hours, every major species had seen the footage. Trade stations played it on public screens. Military academies studied it in tactical classes. News networks broadcasted on endless repeat. A single human cargo ship defeating 3 Krell hunters became the only story anyone wanted to talk about. The Galactic Council called emergency meetings on 3 different worlds at the same time. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in their grand chambers, all talking at once, all demanding answers to the same question. Who were these humans? They appeared 200 years ago, explained the Council's intelligence officer, a creature with multiple arms and too many eyes. They claimed a world called Earth in a system we had marked as uninhabitable. We gave them observer status and mostly ignored them. They seemed harmless. Small population. No military expansion. No territorial claims. That assessment was clearly wrong, said one of the delegates, her voice sharp. The footage played again on the massive screens. Council members watched in silence as the Morning Star deployed chaff, fired its electromagnetic pulse, and systematically dismantled ships 3 times its size using nothing but clever tactics and courage. What do we know about their home world? Someone asked. The intelligence officer pulled up data files. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity is 40% stronger than galactic standard. The weather patterns are extreme and unpredictable. The planet has active volcanoes, massive storms, and temperature ranges that would kill most species. And it has predators. Apex predators at every level of the food chain. Impossible, whispered a delegate from a peaceful herbivore species. No intelligent life evolves under such conditions. The environment would kill them before they develop tools. Humans did not just survive, the intelligence officer continued. They thrived. They evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Their brains developed exceptional pattern recognition to track and predict behavior. Their capacity for tactical thinking appears to have no upper limit. A long silence filled the chamber. They compensate for weaker technology with stronger strategy, observed a military representative. What happens when they develop technology equal to ours? No one had an answer to that question. We have reports, the intelligence officer said, of 23 additional human vessels responding to distress calls across the outer territories. All civilian ships. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, even a passenger transport. All of them using similar tactics when they encounter hostiles. Are they coordinating? Is this a military operation? No. This appears to be cultural. Humans have a concept they call duty to rescue. Their law and moral code requires them to help anyone in distress if they are able. Failure to assist is considered a serious crime in their society. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species saw opportunity in this. Others saw threat. But the prey species, those who had suffered under predators like the Krell for generations, saw something else entirely. They saw hope. Within days, the Valkyrie announced a formal trade alliance with humanity. Other prey species rushed to follow. Diplomatic requests flooded Earth's communication networks. Everyone wanted to meet these humans, to trade with them, to learn from them, to ally with them. The predator species reacted differently. The Krell hierarchy held closed meetings that lasted for days. Some commanders demanded immediate revenge for the humiliation. Others urged caution and study. The faction calling for caution won barely. The Krell issued a formal statement declaring humans as worthy opponents, the closest thing to respect their culture allowed. The Ravager clans went silent, their raiding ships pulling back from human patrol routes. The Talmar Corsairs cancelled 3 planned attacks after learning that human freighters had started traveling those sectors. Word spread quickly among the hunters. Avoid the humans. On Earth, in the United Nations Space Command headquarters, Admiral Rebecca Foster watched the galactic response with careful attention. She was a tall woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. We have changed the balance of power, said her chief of staff, Colonel David Wright. Every move we make now will be watched and analyzed. Good, Foster replied. Let them watch. Let them see that humanity stands for something beyond profit and power. The Krell will not forget this, Admiral. They will come back stronger, better prepared. Foster nodded slowly. Then we will be ready. Contact all civilian vessels operating in the outer territories. No orders, just information. Give them everything we know about Krell tactics, weaknesses, and patterns. If our merchants are going to play Guardian, they deserve every advantage we can provide. Admiral, that is military intelligence. We are sharing classified data with civilian captains. Those civilian captains just became the first line of defense for hundreds of prey species, Foster said firmly. They are flying into danger to help strangers. The least we can do is make sure they have the knowledge to survive. 3 months passed. The Morning Star delivered its medical supplies to New Cardiff, only slightly late. Captain Blake sat in his quarters, reading reports from across the galaxy. The Valkyrie had formed a mutual defense pact with 7 other species. Human trading vessels now traveled with grateful escorts from aliens they had saved. New friendships formed. New alliances grew. Emma knocked on his door and entered, carrying a data tablet. Captain, Earth Command is forming something called the Guardian Fleet. They are asking for volunteers. Civilian vessels willing to patrol the outer territories and respond to distress calls. Are you signing up? Blake asked. Emma smiled. Already did. Tom and Marcus too. We figured the Morning Star has more runs to make. Just different cargo now. Blake looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there people needed help. Predators needed to learn new lessons. The strong needed to remember their duty to protect the weak. Register us with the Guardian Fleet, he said quietly. We have work to do. News continued to spread. More human ships joined the patrols. More prey species found courage to defend themselves. The predators learned to check their sensors before attacking, searching for that distinctive human signature. The galaxy had changed. The old rules no longer applied. The circle of predator and prey had been broken. And humanity would make sure it stayed broken, one cargo ship at a time.